Apple's annual developer conference kicks off on June the 13th here in San Francisco, California. CNET's senior writer Shara Tibken is here to give us the inside scoop on what's going to happen at WWDC. Now, virtual assistants and artificial intelligence is really big from a bunch of other companies like Google and Microsoft this year. What do we know about Siri?
Yeah, so for Apple's developer conference, it's always about software. They occasionally will talk about new computers, things like that, but this year it's going to be really heavy on the software. Siri is something we're really hoping we'll get an update. So we saw with Google, like you mentioned, some of these other companies have really done a lot to make their voice assistants, their digital assistants smarter. Siri still is not quite there. So we're hoping to see them make more improvements, make her smarter. She might be coming to the Mac as well, which is pretty interesting.
Now, on the topic of software, obviously, Apple has had a kind of a quiet year with Apple Music. Can we expect any more developments on that particular front?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're really expecting some big updates to Apple Music. Probably more redesign as opposed to new functions. But also, it's interesting that they're having this at a different venue. Usually they have the developer conference at Moscone Center, which is this big conference hall. Instead, they're having this at Bill Graham, which is where there's typically concerts. So that kind of makes me wonder if they're going to have, some sort of musical component to it. I think the last event they had there, they had One Republic perform. So there, it could be something like that.
Yes, that's really interesting to see that they're doing it in a musical venue as well, like they did with a couple of the other launches previously.
Yeah.
And what about, obviously, hardware is very unlikely to happen. So Mac OS 10, are we expecting anything on the software front for that?
Yeah. I mean, there should definitely be an update for both the iPhone and the Mac. There's talk that they could rename OS 10 to just Mac OS to kind of go more in line with their other products. It's a pretty big year for iOS as well. So we just had iOS 9, so it's going to be iOS 10 or whatever they call it. So, really interested to see what they're going to do with both of those software items.
And finally, Apple Pay. There's been a lot of conjecture about, say, peer-to-peer payments on Apple Pay or Apple Pay working from mobile to desktop. Do we have any more rumors on that?
I think that those are kind of the big features that people are really talking about right now. Apple's really been pushing Apple Pay, but it's not really clear how much people are actually using it. So any sort of features that they could add, like the peer-to-peer payments, would really make it more attractive to people.
Shara, thank you so much. And of course, if you want to keep up to date with everything new in the world of Apple at WWDC, we have a live show kicking off on CNET on June the 13th, and of course, all of our coverage on CNET.com.